Look at the Yetzer Hara. And kids off the derech. I know with people, older people off the derech. Why are they off the derech? Why are they off the derech? We just saw in this week's parsha. We saw 98 gefährliche klalas, 98 curses, and everything. They predicted the Holocaust. They predicted the Inquisition. They predicted the pogroms. Everything. It's right there. Look, you don't have to do a Chazor Ashur on Kisavli. And it's not often when the Kodesh Baruch Hu says, Lo tahal gedi b'chalei v'moy, says it 3 times in Torah, that you shouldn't eat basar v'chalav. They say one time Isur Achila, one time Isur Bishul, one time Isur Hanoah. Kodesh Baruch Hu, he doesn't give a terutz. Kodesh Baruch Hu doesn't say why. We know there's lots of terutzim in the Gemara and the Zohar about the climb. It's a pchin of climb. It goes against creation. Okay, but Hashem doesn't give the terutz. After the klalas, Hashem gives the terutz. No, why the klalas? So wait a second. If we would think, what could be wrong that we got all these tragedies and to still have tragedies? Look what's going on in Eretz Yisrael. You just say in Eretz Yisrael there's a suicide bomber and attack. They fall that attack. Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem, Baruch Hashem. But they listen every day. In America, there's this gefährlich anti-Semitism, and because what happened in Pittsburgh, and all kinds of things. It's not just Eretz Yisrael, it's Yidden all around the world. And don't even ask about the Yidden in Tzarfat, and the Yidden in France. It's crazy. What is going on? What is going on? So maybe, if I open up the Gemara in Tractate Sanhedrin, and the Gemara in Tractate Sanhedrin says that there's 3 Averis, it's Yareg V'Bal Yavol. Well, maybe we could do Pikuach Nefesh. Somebody's a Rebbitzin, she's about to give birth, Mazel Tov. And it's Shabbos, and you can't get Hatzalah, you can't get a Goy, you can't get anybody. So what do? You put on your Streimer, you put on your Gartel, you say Yeshem Yuchad Kutsha, and you turn on the ignition, and you take the Rebbitzin to the hospital. Okay, Pikuach Nefesh. It's a mitzvah. And we do that about 610 mitzvahs in the Torah could break for Pikuach Nefesh. But 3 mitzvahs we can't break for Pikuach Nefesh. Gilui Ares, Shvichas Domim, and Avodah Zorah. So maybe all these klalas are from these 3 terrible mitzvahs, Avodah Zorah, Chas v'Sholom, Gilui Ares, Chas v'Sholom, that they're Am Yisrael, Am Kadosh. Or maybe bloodshed, Shvichas Domim. No! You know what the teretz in the Torah is? It's a bomb teretz that nobody understands. Tachat Hashem lo avat Hashem lo kel v'simcha. Because we didn't serve Hashem in Simcha? And we get all these problems? Wasn't the pshat? What's going on here? Okay, Ribbon Shalom. Yeah, you look out, walk down the street, 17th Avenue, 15th Avenue, 13th Avenue on Shabbos, and with the big shmechel, good Shabbos, how many people answer you back? Don't say good Shabbos, but how many people answer you back with the same shmechel? Stop and think. Don't answer me out loud. Answer yourself. How many times you say good Shabbos to somebody? Shabbos. A guy once, Rabbi Soros Salanter, was walking to Shul on Yom Kippur, and he said, he gave a bracha. He said, I get yo, get Malsim Taiva, and he goes, he says, ich bin schuldig von Yirat Shamayim. That's my fault to see Yirat Shamayim. That's not what Hashem wants from us. I'll tell you a little test. Say the word from. Now smile and say from. You can't, doesn't work. No. So one Hasidic wise guy said frim. No, that. From. Okay, it doesn't work. Now say the word emunah. Emunah, it's instant shmechel. Hashem doesn't want unglichers, and Hashem doesn't want people like this. That's not Yiddishkeit. What does it mean to serve Hashem b'simcha? Okay, Hashem, what am I? I'm sorry. So I don't feel simcha. So why should you punish me like that? Legitimate kasha? Okay, Hashem, I'm not in a good mood. Person's allowed not to be in a good mood? Not a Yid. A Yid is not allowed to be in a good mood. He's to be in a bad mood. He must be in a good mood. Because a good mood, you know what a good mood means? Let's go back to the first principle of Emunah. The first principle of Emunah, Ani ma'amin be'emunah shleima, I believe with a full and complete belief, Shaboire Yitbarach Shmoi, that the Creator, blessed be His name, Uboiro Manhig, He's not in retirement. Hashem is the Creator, and the Manhig, the Director, L'chol Abuim, of all of creation, V'hu Levadoi, and He alone, not Eibishter, not Dir, not Eibishter, He alone did, does, and will do everything. Everything that goes past, present, future, it's all from the Baruch Shalom. So everything from the Baruch Shalom, no exception to the rule. Every heartbeat, Baruch Shalom. The Midrash Tehillim says, at the very last pasuk of Tehillim, in Chufnin, Kol ad Shemat Halal Kol, Midrash says, no, don't say Kol ad Shemat, say Kol ad Neshima. That every single breath I take, to Halal Kol, I should be praising Hashem. It's the difference between one breath, one heartbeat. It's the difference between life and the opposite. So everything comes from Hashem. You know what a good mood is? You know what a shmechel is? You know what happiness is? Everything comes from Hashem. Happiness is a declaration, I like the way you run the world, Hashem. When a person is not happy and a person thinks that Hashem's not being fair with him, it's a declaration, no, Hashem, you're not being fair with me. I don't like the way you run the world. You don't give me enough parnosa, and you give me this health problem, and you give me a wife that fetches me all the time, and you give me a special needs kid. Oh. This is Chodesh Elul. The Chafetz Chaim gives us one of two reasons that the Sforim upstairs get opened. We don't want Sforim to be opened, because there's a law in heavenly jurisprudence, in Tzedek Elyon, there's a law, that if the Beis Din Shel Mala judges us, no chance. No chance. They got the best lawyers, everything, the best lawyers, and you can't beat them. So a person is always going to be guilty. But if the Eibishter judges us, the Rebbeinu Shalom is complete rachamim, And that's they tell in the Zohar, Rabbi Hemnuna Saba. Rabbi Hemnuna said, who you daven for? They're talking about which Partsufim, Elyon, he says, L'chot HaMelyon. He says, I did to L'chot HaMelyon. L'chot HaMelyon is not Zer Tzarich. Because up there it's Makor Chesed, only Chesed, only Chesed, only Chesed. So Baruch Shalom, in the Makor is only Chesed, and the source is only Chesed, always scot-free. So what does Rebbeinu Shalom? He waits and he doesn't judge us, doesn't give us problems. And now comes Rosh Hashanah, and we hear the Shofar, and we all line up, Kitzoin Kimdei Ma'oim, and Hashem brings us together, and He takes the Sefer of Klal Yisrael, Zakai, Great New Year, up. We got a problem. Moshe Zichman owns a shoe store. Okay. And Yankel across the street owns a shoe store. And Moshe Zichman wants all the business to himself, so he tells people that Yankel sells false shoes, that they're not real leather, they're plastic, they're this and that. Even if it's true, it's Lashon Hara. And if it's not true, it's Hoysat Shemra, etc., etc., etc. And he says, Yankel across the street, he's not honest. Oh, now wait a second. Time out on the field, and they open up, and they have like a Moshe's Sefer. Moshe's Sefer, and they see, how has he done honest business? And he shortchanged this one, he shortchanged that one, he did, and he that. And now the Beis Din Shel Mala says, Baruch Shalom, what's going on here? Look what he did. Look what he did in Cheshvan, and look what he did again in Shvat, and look what he did in Adar, and look what he did in Iyar. He did all this nasty stuff, and you didn't punish him. Rebbeinu Shalom was waiting for two things. Did he make tshuva? Did he go with the whole flock on Rosh Hashanah? But he didn't have brains. He never read the Chafetz Chaim, or he read the Chafetz Chaim, didn't implement it. And he talks bad about another Yid. Talks bad about another Yid, he gets the book opened. So we see Lashon Hara, Chafetz Chaim says, Lashon Hara, a person brings himself, invokes on himself Midas Adin, and we don't want that. Because Midas Adin, the Beis Din Shel Mala, guy's going to have big problems. Big problems. See people say, Baruch Shalom, what's this problem? He should do a little cheshbon nefesh. If he did a little cheshbon nefesh, and he'd realize that he brought the problem on himself, and that's what they show after 120 years. brought the problem on himself. But people don't do cheshbon nefesh. You know what happens when a person doesn't do cheshbon nefesh? We're talking about Elul. Every day a person needs to do cheshbon nefesh. Okay, you go to the mikveh every morning, and before you go into the mikveh, you take a shower. Soap and shampoo. It's standard. Hasidic Yungelite, they're very, very hygienic. Okay? Who doesn't go to mikveh? Who doesn't take a shower every day? In Eretz Yisrael, sometimes twice a day. Okay? Well, Hashem. You know what happens to the neshama when someone doesn't do cheshbon nefesh? It's like a body that didn't bathe. In other words, it's got all this stuff. Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, not my words, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, Nizor. Chayvus levavos. Chayvus levavos, that he speaks that a person has got to do more the chushpana. He's got to, before he goes to bed, he's got to make cheshbonim. So what did I do today? What happened today? Maybe I insulted somebody, chas v'sholom. Maybe I did something wrong. So right on the spot, he does cheshbon nefesh, Ribono Shel Olam, I messed up today. Forgive me. Ribono Shel Olam, he confesses what he did. And he tells Ribono Shel Olam, apology. And he says, he's going to try better. Ribono Shel Olam, you have to help me. He does a scar treatment. And the Aveira puts a scar in the neshama. What's a scar? S. First of all, he's got to stop the bad behavior. C, he's got to confess to Hashem. A, he's got to apologize. I resolve to do better. I just told you all of Rabbeinu Yonah. Scar, I just told you all of Rabbeinu Yonah. Remember that? Remember the scar treatment, and you know all of Rabbeinu Yonah Shar Tshuva. Okay, it's great. The Tshuva is really easy. And then finished. The Aveira is wiped clean. An Aveira the person does Tshuva for clean. Unless it's a Dam L'Chaveira. Then he has to ask Mechila from his Chaver. But real Mechila. Real Mechila. But there's a second thing that makes a person's books be opened in Shemayim. And the second thing is complaining. If a person complains, Ribono Shel Olam, what'd you give me this wife for? Ribono Shel Olam, what'd you give me this health problem for? Ribono Shel Olam, why is my parnasa so schwer? Ribono Shel Olam, why the others got these wonderful kids, and my kids, they have rough time in shidduchim. Ribono Shel Olam, Ribono Shel Olam. Oh. Now, let's see. Hashem says about himself. Now Hashem's under trial. His son is trying the Tatan Himmel. So Hashem says to Beis Din Shemala, could it be that I'm not okay? Can't be. So now they open up the books, and they feel a big surprise in the books that the difficulty that Yidel had was chesed. That he deserved something much, much worse. He's got a tikkun. Hashem gave him a bargain basement discount tikkun. The tikkun should have been much more difficult. But the person is complaining about that, and Hashem doesn't want it to be a liar. Because you can't lie. Lie in Torah, it's there. So Hashem says, okay, listen, I don't want him to lie. I'm going to give him a reason to complain. Going to give him a reason to complain. Now he gets real reason to complain. He complained about Parnasa. When a person complains about Parnasa gets even worse. There's nothing, no Yeshua ever in history that a person got from complaining. Only made things worse. So what happens? There's a difference when you talk to Hashem. Difference to talk to Hashem. When a person asks for a Yeshua, you don't have to deny your pain. Emunah doesn't mean that when a guy, chas v'sholem, breaks his ankle, oh Hashem, it tickles. No, it doesn't tickle. It hurts like crazy. So he's crying in pain. The doctor's setting his ankle, and maybe he's having an operation, having pins, and something. It hurts like crazy. Ribono Shel Olam, this hurts me like crazy. Ribono Shel Olam, help the doctor heal my ankle. Ribono Shel Olam, let this be a kapara. And Ribono Shel Olam, if I did something wrong, let me understand what I did wrong. Okay? And so he says, L'ragel al l'shoino. Oh, l'ragel, the gossip, it's loshon regel. So maybe they do tshuva for that. So he broke a person's heart by saying Lashon Hara at him and said, broke his ankle. Mida keneged mida. Oh, it's a gefährlich, the mida keneged mida. So we do good for other people, mida keneged mida. Hashem does good for us. When have to be very careful not to judge other people. Not to judge other people, and just everything is good. If I don't understand, I can't understand another Yid. On his shoes, we won with the person after 120. When he goes to the world, then goes to the next world. Okay, he could give his aniklach, his talis, his tefillin, he could even pass his clothes to a gemach. One thing, you can't use the shoes. They're disposed of. How come You can't pass the shoes down. What's the difference between the shoes and a pants you give to a gemach, or you give a rekel, or give a beketcher to gemach, not the shoes? Because the shoes are tailored to one's own foot. Nobody can stand in another person's shoes. It shows us we cannot judge another person until we stand in his place, but nobody can stand in his place. But nobody can real, because why? We don't have the makeup of the neshama. Each one of us has a separate neshama. Each one of us is Hashem's only child. You don't believe me? If you believe me, you'd be smiling. You know what it means? If I would say, maybe a lot of people don't know, but Lazer Brody is not only a Rav, Lazer Brody has a certification as a fitness trainer. Fitness trainer, English. Okay. So if I would say, okay, now we're going to do fitness for Jungelite. I'm going to take off my jacket, start exercising. I want a volunteer to come and help me do fitness exercises. Hey, I'm going to stand up in front of the chavur, for my chavur, make a fool of myself. And a laser's going to make me pick my leg up, put it down, pick my hand up, put it down. What the Simon says, I feel ridiculous. Okay, but if I say, listen, Habibi, under the table I'm going to slip you, what they say in Hebrew, 2 Herzlim, 200 C notes, two Ben Franklins in America. Okay, 2 Ben Franklins, all right, that's already food for Shabbos. Okay, that's already reason. Then maybe we'd do it. Maybe somebody else will do it for 5 Franklins, okay? But we know that we wouldn't do anything without a reason. Why do we think that the Eibishter does things without a reason? You don't have a smile on your face. But you think, oh my, guys are down on themselves. They think, oh, I'm not a Rosh Yeshiva, not a Rosh Kollel. The guy's a business guy. He says, look, my buddy, he made a startup company, made $140 million. This, and what am I? I'm selling shoes, and nickel and dime, nickel and dime, nickel and dime. And always down on ourselves, down on ourselves, down on ourselves, down on ourselves. That's because we're looking at the gashmias of ourselves and not at the ruchnias. When we look at the ruchnias, this is a sign of the ruchnias. Nobody has the same thumbprint. Why does Ribono Shel Olam go to such trouble to give everyone an individual thumbprint that reflects that everyone has their own chromosome map, own DNA and RNA, but have it special, his own neshamas with own talents, his own tikkun, but own neshama. And no neshama, we have the Shishim Ribo Neshamas. That there can't be, the Klal Yisrael. And the example, it's in halacha. We see halacha when people look at the chitzonius of things, they don't look at the pnimius. What's the pnimius? If we open up the Aron HaKodesh, we take out a Sefer Torah, and if there's one letter puzzle, and you in the middle of Shabbos, and something you can't fix, nebuch, close up the Sefer Torah, put the gartel on the outside, and it's an embarrassment. Take out another Sefer Torah until after Shabbos, the Sefer could fix it. What are you talking about? Let's see, all of halacha, din rov. So let's say, we would say maybe shishim ribu oisius, 600,000 oisius. You got 301,000 kusher, and 299,000 not kosher. Sefer Torah we would say is kosher. No. One letter. It's a mashu, isu mashu, one letter. What does that tell us? It tells us that shishim ribo neshamas that correspond to shishim ribo oisius, and each neshama has a corresponding ois, and each neshama you can't to say this guy is posel, to say this guy is not good, it's like to say that a letter in the Eibishter's Torah is posel. So that means you're posel the Ribono Shel Olam's Torah. You can't do this. It's a Gevela thing. And now we can understand why we lost Bayit Sheni, because we're together. But what's all this? When you look at the chitzonius of something, you see, this guy is Ashkenazi, and this guy's Sephardi, and this guy's Litvak, and this guy's Chassid, and this guy's Mizrachnikik, and this guy's this, and this guy's that. Maybe this guy's not even religious at all. One time, my father was a Moiridik, Oyev Yisrael. He was a Tinok Shenishba. He was a soldier in World War II. My mother came from the Holocaust. My father was a soldier in World War II, 6 years in the Canadian Air Force. And I was at shul with my father when I was a little boy. We had a conservative shul in Silver Spring, Maryland. And my father heard two guys in front of him talking about this Yidden and this Yidden and this Yidden and this Yidden. This was back in the 1960s. And my father said to him, you know, you guys, you're talking about another Jew? He couldn't stand to hear that. He couldn't stand to hear anything bad about Jewish people. Because when he was a pilot in the Canadian Air Force, he had two enemies. He had one enemy, the Germans, and one enemy, the anti-Semitic Canadian pilots. He was the only Jewish pilot in Western Canada. And once they left him in the middle of a mission to defend him on his own, that the Germans came with fighter planes. My father used to fly this big, heavy bomber, this slow bomber, and Hashem took it at miracles. Hashem took miracles, and my father had World War II, miracles to get my mother out of the Holocaust. And maybe, thank you, Baruch Hashem. So we could be here today. It's Gefer Hashgacha. But these two guys in Shul were talking bad about Yid, and my father said to him, you know something? You guys are worse than Hitler. What do you mean? They're talking to him, but they saw that my father was a big guy. He says, yeah. Hitler didn't differentiate between Jews. He burned them all in equal opportunity gas chambers. There was no separate gas chamber for Hasidim, and no separate gas for Litvaks, and even there was no separate gas chamber for Ger Hasidim and for Abshul Hasidim. Everybody together, burned it. Nothing. They're all together. So we see, when only be together when we look at the Pneumius. So what's the thing? If I look at Pneumius, Western society, guys are not their fault. But it's conditioning Western society. I know. I grew up here till I was 21 years old. The day I finished university, I went over to Eretz Yisrael. Went into the army. And when I got out of my second war with most of my manufacturer's equipment still intact, there was no way. And that's when I started my journey back to the Born Shalom. I can be here today. It began in 1982. But I know where it's coming from. You know where the Emunah is in America? It's funny, I have a friend who was the governor of Alabama, okay, and he got disbarred because he put the 10 Commandments on his courthouse, and the Supreme Court told him to take it down, and he said, no, I'm not taking that 10 Commandments. This is our founding fathers wrote in the Constitution, one nation under God. Okay, but he wouldn't take it down. For that they disbarred him. So they said, wait, you can't put the 10 Commandments on a courthouse because that's religious coercion. Then why do they write on the dollar? Take out a dollar. Look, it says, "In God we trust." Because that's the God they trust in, the greenback dollar. And unfortunately, a lot of our own Jungelite, that they look at the Chitzonius, they think that the dollar is king. I don't say that word, dollar is king. When you look at Pneumius, everything comes to Born Shalom. Every drink of water we take, every little crumb of bread. And to the Pneumius, we can't hear the voice of the Shofar if we don't look in the Pneumius. We don't hear the Pneumius. They say that really the Gemara is more secret than the Zohar. Because the Zohar says, Tochazi, says, come take a look. And the Gemara says, Toshma, come hear. So we know that hearing is even on a more Pneumius level than seeing. Because you hear this, we say, Shema Yisrael. We don't say Tirei Yisrael, Tirei Yisrael. It takes to hear something, and to hear the inner voice, this takes emunah. So we say, Tka, B'shofar Gadol Oseinu. Stop and think how we say this bracha. Who stops and makes Tka, B'shofar Gadol Oseinu. Ribono shel olam, when I hear the voice of that shofar. Gadol Oseinu, what kind of cherut? What, did anybody, I don't see anybody in a ball and chains here. What, Gadol Oseinu? Did America stop it? Any one of you guys could go to El Al, to United, buy a ticket tomorrow to Eretz Yisrael, and move to Eretz Yisrael. Nobody's stopping you. It's not communist Russia. So what's it? Kapseinu Yachad, like unchain us. What's the cherut? The cherut is from the Baldover, from the Yetzer Hara. The one that knocks down the time, the one that doesn't want to hear Emunah, on everything. Oh, no, that's Gefliten Himmel. geflieten Himmel. If I can't see it with my own two eyes, it's not there. No. Listen, something else also, something that the Mishnah in Ovos tells us. Kol yom yotzei mihar chorev baskol shuvu bonim shovim. Anybody hear that baskol today? Who heard of words, shuvu bonim shovim? Shuvu bonim shovim. That's there. But don't pay attention. There's things, Rabbi Nachman says, that since everything comes from Hashem, hu levado asa oiseh v'yaseh, and everything is a shaliach of Hashem. Any person we meet, anything that we do, anything, any stimuli in our lives is coming to give us a message. And if we would pay attention to the message, it's shuvu bonim shovavim. What does it mean, bonim shovim? Does it say bonim poshim? No, there's no posheh on Klal Yisrael. No posheh. Israel said that in the Haftarah we said the day before yesterday. And Novi Shao, Amcha Kulam Tzadikim. It's not me, it's a signed check from Yeshua Novi. He doesn't say, lazy talks. Nice. No, it's Novi Shao. Amcha Kulam Tzadikim. Kulam Tzadikim. So you look at the cab driver that goes to, it used to be the Brooklyn Dodgers, what's the Brooklyn whatever, I don't know, I still remember that. That's my Girs at the Yankuta. Your Girs at the Yankuta is Eila Metzias. My Girs at the Yankuta is New York Yankees. So we can all come back. Hashem wants us all to come back. He brings us all. We have to listen to the bas call, hear the call of the shofar. Tka nes lekabetz gluseinu. Bring us back. As neshama serving Hashem, we see Hashem, and we bring the light of Amunah in the world. That's all lagoyim. That's our job. Our lagoyim doesn't mean bringing high tech to the world. It means bringing the light of Amunah. In order to that, we have to take a stronger look. This is what we have to do tshuva for. We have to do tshuva for B'nai Shalom. I'm sorry that my avodas Hashem is melumoda. Make cheshbon nefesh, which part of avodas Hashem is mitzvah Hashem melumoda. This is the advantage of a Baal Tshuva over a Geborner. A Baal Tshuva, I never forget, I came to the Karlsberger Rebbe. The Karlsberger Rebbe, he's a brother-in-law, he's a shvuger from my Rebbe, the Melitzer Rebbe Zalzan Gezin. And the Melitzer Rebbe had been with him many years, and Moyil Rabbi, Shem Yalechet Yamav Shnoisav Amen. I went to New York, and for one of my first books to be published, and I went to Karlsberger Rebbe, and I brought him a copy of one of my Hebrews for him. I have two Hebrews for him. One is a well-known Nafshi Sidom, it's about Bizyonis. The other one is less well-known, because it's more known about Tshuva world. It's called Pia Be'er. It's 550 pages on Chamisha Chumshei Torah. And they got, I think Eichler's got it. I know the wholesale, but it's much less well-known. And I brought a copy of this to Karlsberger Rebbe. Karlsberger Rebbe is from son of the Sfinker Rebbe. Okay, and Shvuker, his sister was married to the Rebbe, the Melitzer Rebbe. So I went and I stayed over by his house in Williamsburg. And I brought him a matona. And we sat together, and I brought him the matona, and he looked at it, and he looked at the pages, Der Bild gesagt, leise vor, das ist nicht unsere Sprache. I had a tear coming down my eyes. I really felt there was a pinch. After I said, okay, Rebbe, fine, that's the Techelek, the Bon Shalom gives me in the Torah. So what's the sign? I had an appointment with a publisher in Manhattan. Went to publish. By the time I got back from Manhattan, it was 12 o'clock at night. And the Karlsberger Rebbe was waiting for me on the balcony in Williamsburg. Ladies and gentlemen, come up. So I came up. Oof. Rebbe's telling me, so sits down. We schmooze, we sit down. He had tea and kichalach. And he says, I wrote a Torah in Pia Be'er about B'Tzalel and Aholiav. You ask the question, what does B'Tzalel Need this shvacha helper from Shevet Dan. Betzalel is from the best tribe. Betzalel is from, he's a nephew of Moshe Rabbeinu. Betzalel's got everything going. Betzel Kel. The Boishleim gave him Ruach HaKodesh. What's he need from Shevet Dan? This Nidreker, this Oholiav. Okay, Oholiav ben Achisamach. That they need his brother from Shevet Yehuda to hold him up. Achisamach. He can't stand up on his own. Needs his brother to hold him up. This is Shvacha Shevet Dan. Shevet Yehuda. The Shevet Dan. Masef l'kol ha'machnos. They're the tail. They're the last ones in line. What's he needed for? The state in Pia Ber that Betzalel is the Geborner. And Oholiav ben Achisama, he's the Baal Tshuva. And the Ribono Shel Olam makes in his Torah, makes together with the Klei Mishkan, that you need both of them. You need the work of the Baal Tshuva together with the Geborner. Why is that? The Geborner, he's got Girsa de Yankuta, he can tell Ksois by heart, he learns, he's got his gift from Cheder, Yeshiva Ketana, Yeshiva Gedoyla. Oppa, had a problem. He's been saying Nagelwasser. He's been using Nagelwasser since he's a year old. He's been saying Moide Ani since he can speak. And ask the average Geborner how he says Moide Ani in the morning. I could take to a pet store in Manhattan and get a Brazilian parrot. Costs about $5,000 with a big tail. And teach this Brazilian parrot. I could dray him a cup, Moide Ani, and I could teach, say, Moide Ani Fanecha, Melech Chayam, Shezvat Nishvasi. Stop and think. How many wake up in the morning? And the malachim are laughing. It sounds like the old Borough Park is filled with a pet store. Brazilian parrots. How many? That's the way they say. The Zohar says, Rachmana liba, boy. That Hashem wants the heart. How much of the heart is in there? Oh, but now comes Aholiav. And they say, Mr. Aholiav, guess what we got in Klal Yisrael? We got a Mishnah. And we got a Gemara. Let's start learning. So we take Aholiav, we open up Beis, the Brachas Beis Omid Aleph, Meimosai. He'll kick the rein. Meimosai! Why have you say this? Why is up? Meimosai! Shuckle! Hey, calm down. So what are you so? This is only the first word of the first page. 2,722 blot and Gemara. No, you can look at the shot. Look here. Look what's in there. Mosai. He said this is his enthusiasm because never done. Now he's suddenly discovered. And this is something. Uri Zohar wrote a book. Uri Zohar, Uri Zohar was a Talmud of Reb Noach Weinberg. Reb Noach Weinberg made a koilel chorah for Balei Tshuvas. People laughed at Balei Tshuvas. It's yesterday, you can't laugh at another person. With the Gemara Babatzia, Perach Zahav. It's Yisrael Nasavorim, Termine, Balei Tshuva. Yesterday, you ate treifas and avelis. Yesterday, you went to the football game. Yesterday, you did this. Today, you want to be a Moira. Okay. This Reb Noach, he wanted to do this. He wanted to do that, and he said, Shlichim, all over the world, and the Shluchim, he wanted that they should be Musmachim. They should be. So he was the first Machzor. Lezer Brody is a Machzor after Uri Zohar. Okay. Uri Zohar wrote a book. We were robbed. We were robbed. The Nebuch, those of us that were born far away from Torah Yishka, we were robbed of our rich history. We were robbed of Torah. But Hu Levado, also Oisev Yaseh, he alone. I used to cry to Hashem Yitbarach. Hashem, when it was difficult. Before I learned the Neshet Torah, I found out the history of my family, and I went home to visit my family. When I got here, I went home to visit my family, and my Bobby was dying. My Bobby from Grodno. My mama was born in Grodno. And my Bobby from Grodno, my Zayde from Grodno was a Litvak. My Bobby, she was a Chassid. There were two Chassiduses in Litvak, in Grodno. One was stolen and one was slonim. Okay? My Elta Zayde, my Bobby Zayde, was a Bakante, stolen a Chassid. So I stolen Kalin. And went in the Kalin Yeshiva, and I said, hi guys, I don't know how to speak Yiddish. Ich bin a stolen Einikel, that's what I knew how to say. Okay, and I went total immersion learning, and total immersion. And from there I went to Eshet Torah. But I'll never forget, I was learning, and here I was, 32 years old, out of the army, fresh Baal Tshuva. I was a commando in the Israeli army. I was a graduate from university. I missed a big man on the campus. And I'm learning with this 17-year-old stolen bocher, azit mit chachkunim auf dem ponim, okay? And we're learning Elam Mitzias, and he looks at me like the dumbest person in the world, and he says, "Verstehst nicht die Kasche?" I said, "Verstehst nicht die Kasche? How'd you like to get this hand across your face?" Wow. And then was all of a sudden they had the Seder. It was 7 o'clock in the evening. The Seder already left, and I sat there in the base midrash. And I had tears of rage in my eyes. Here's this little kid. I've been through 2 wars there, sister. I've been around the world, and this, and you sit there, verstehst nicht die Kasche? Okay. I'm saying, but this was my Gaiva still. My Gaiva was still alive and a bit, live and kicking. And how come you didn't have one more place in Mea Sharim or in Bnei Brak for Lezer Brody? That the Washington, D.C. For us, Washington, D.C. Well, why not? Oh. Said, you'll see. You'll see. You'll see. So later, to fast forward, afterwards start speaking, when you speak to Israeli Bali Chuvas or Israeli Chilonim, the first thing you want to know, oh, you guys haven't been in the army. I'm not going to listen to you. Oh, no? Here's the unit. Here's the rank. Can you beat that? Okay. Oh, but you guys don't have a scholar. You've been in the university. Oh, no? Master degree in agriculture is not enough for you? Okay. And then they got nothing left to say about their Bon Shalom. All right, so now that we got that put aside, let's hear a little bit of emes. And realize after that everything Hashem does is for the best. And that's it. So we all have to learn from one another. Everybody has what to contribute. There's the Betzalel in the world, there's a Holiev in the world, and nobody should be jealous of the other because each one has his job in the world, and not to be jealous of anybody else. Like in the army, everybody's got their battle station. One guy in the sky, one guy in the sea, one guy in the border, one guy is cooking the dinner. Okay, the army can't go empty. And this we see. We look at the plemius. What is my job? My job in the Shama. And when I'm plemius oriented, all of a sudden my hearing becomes completely different. My hearing becomes ruchnidik. And my eyes, they become spiritual. I see things and I hear things. And I'm more closer to the Rabboni Shalom, much more closer to the Rabboni Shalom because I'm spiritually sensitive. What does it mean spiritually sensitive? Let's take it fitness. If I talk to a guy that's overweight and he sits and doesn't exercise, and every morning after davening, it's a couple of schnapps and rugelach, do you know how far you have to run to wear off one rugelach? If you walk, swift walk, 3 miles, that's the calories of one rugelach. If not, okay, then it's a minute on your lips, but another whole year on your hips. Okay, that's it. So you see, people don't realize. People don't realize what they're doing. So if I would talk to this guy, say, listen, you know something? There's a sport called marathon. Marathon. You know what is marathon? Marathon, where you got guys and they run a race, and the race is 26 miles. So 26 miles. When he thinks he's got to walk, or that gets invited to a Shalom Zocher or a Sheva Brachas, and he's got to walk. Oh, it's Shabbos, let's say a Shalom Zocher, and he's thinking, wait a second, the shul is 4 blocks away. I live on 51st Street, and I got to go to 55th Street, and maybe he's thinking twice, 4 blocks after a Shabbos meal. I'm going to go 4 blocks to eat some arbis and then come back. Maybe he thinks twice. 2 blocks, maybe okay. So the guy, he can't hear it. But for somebody that enjoys walking, enjoys running, is in good shape, you tell him to walk from Borough Park to Flatbush, he's got no problem. He's got no problem. Okay, so take a nice spazier. And while he's doing it, talk to Bon Shalom in the way and talk to Bon Shalom in the way. So we see when a person is in good shape, he's in touch with his body. But I'm not talking about physical conditioning. I'm talking about spiritual conditioning. When our neshama is in good shape, when we're used to activating our neshama. You say people that they daven, they up. That's one thing. Oh, shiva, you know, this is Birkas Hamazon, you know, in 2 seconds. Rub-a-dub-dub, thanks for the grub, yay Hashem. That's not this. It's the Chofetz Chaim. You say Birkas Hamazon. That's a big. People are complaining about Parnasa. Birkas Hamazon, Kavona, Mitarekel, Mitakapaluch, Skula le Parnasa. What would a Jew not do for Parnasa? Okay, stay a little bit slower down and calm. We speak to the Melech. This is spiritual conditioning. When the neshama gets used to be in spiritual good shape, when the neshama is in spiritual good shape, it could hear the voice from Chorev, Shuvu Banim Shovavim, and it can hear Kab Shofar Gadol, and it hears the shofar on Rosh Hashanah. What do we do on Rosh Hashanah? Now is the time for tshuva. Now is the time to get close to Hashem, and it's very simple, very simple. A shtickle cheshbon nefesh. No Kabbalahs, no that. The guy says he's going to take a Kabbalah, he's going to finish 15 volumes of the Rizal, he's going to finish Shas, he's going to do that. The Kabbalahs, they don't make it to Shmini Atzeres. You ask a guy in Shmini Atzeres, what do you promise Hashem that you're going to do on Rosh Hashanah? Gedenk, you got to remember. You got to remember. The Kabbalahs, make the Kabbalah Shabbos. That's what it's good for, Kabbalah Shabbos. But right now, we have this Motzei Shabbos, Shabbos Slichas. We've got another whole week to go. You can conquer the world in a week. And if a person hasn't done Tshuva now, we say one thing. We say, L'mancha Elokim Chaim. And with a thought, L'mancha Elokim, we say that's also made Tshuva. L'mancha Elokim Chaim, that's work for all year long. And I'll prove it. If we look in Hilchas Yom Kippur, the Heilige Beis Yosef says there's something you better not do during Aseres Yemei Tshuva. And what's that? They think, wait a second. He's going to tell us not to speak Lashon Hara. He's going to tell us not to shortchange a customer. He's going to tell us not to talk in davening. What's he going to tell us? Al tochal pasakum. Boom. Azam moya dikalocha. Pasakum. Who eats pasakum? Somebody in the base midrash? Who eats pasakum? Nobody in the base midrash. Nobody in a chavura. I can't believe anybody in a chavura eats pasakum. Especially when you live in Borough Park. You don't need. You've got bakeries. Who eats pasakum? So what's the thing? I asked my Rebbe, the Melitzer Rebbe, what's the pshat in the halacha? So the Rebbe told me, in Pasakum, what's the Akum? Look, the Gemara on Avodah Zorah, second parak Avodah Zorah. Okay. Atu b'noseim, atu davar acher. That the whole gezeres of the Akum, Stam Yenam, and Pasakum, and Chalav Akum, so we won't have business lunch with the goy at his apartment. And all of a sudden, his daughter won't come out and serve the next course, and you won't see the daughter, won't it? That's better. You do his thing, and I do my thing. All right? With this, we could have big business associates and live calmly together with one another, and I'll teach him the 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach and have shalom, but I don't need to see his daughter. Just to keep us away. But it says even more. The Rebbe told me in Pnimius, Oysarizal, there's a klifa because atu b'noisam, atu davar acher, was the davar acher avodah zorah. In pas akum, and in stam yenam, more gefällig, in pas akum, and stam yenam, there is a klifa that stops the tshuva. And this is the Beis Yosef. He understood this. He knows this. He's a chavusa with Arizal. Okay, Paskins about nigla. There's a lot to say. A lot to say in the Beis Yosef, Klal Psak, when there's so many arguments between nigla and nistar, and with a shofar muksad Shabbos, it's an argument between nigla and nistar. So there's so many interesting sugyas where nigla and nistar, and when the Beis Yosef nigla and nistar. But here, it's the nistar and the nigla together, ein machloikis, that we see to keep us away from tshuva. So we know we do this all year long. It's meant all year long. The same thing, what we say in Aseres Yemei Tshuva, L'man Elokim Chayim, it's also all year long. L'man Elokim Chayim. What am I here? I'm here to make a big splash. I'm here to do something. No, I'm here to bring the light of Hashem. Whatever I'm doing in life, in my Torah, in my avodah, in my career, what doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. What a yid, whatever a yid does, a yid is a kli for Kiddush Hashem. And that's all the goyim. So what we have to do is prepare ourselves kli like Kiddush Hashem and to sein a reine kli. And the way to be a reine kli, this is very simple. Very simple. I'm giving you a big discount. If you open up Zettel Kota, Noam Elimelech says you got a day, a week of Cheshbon Nefesh, a day a week. You don't go to Beis Midrash. You don't open up the store. You don't go to work. You go up to the mountains, up to the Catskills in the woods with the Berlach and the wolves and everything, and you do Cheshbon Nefesh. You talk to Hashem for 24 hours. Comes Reb Nachman Breslev and he says, wait a second, that's a little bit difficult. I'll give you a discount. Not 24 hours a week, 7 hours a week. And I'll break it up in installments, 1 hour a day. Okay. Comes the Chavis Levos Rishon, and he says, like the Zohar, more the Chushpana, brings the Zohar, more the Chushpana. And the more the Chushpana, it's before you put your head on the pillow, before you say Krishma, a couple of minutes. Let's take 4-5 minutes before you go to sleep. This is the Kabbalah we should do, but not for all year long. Like the Pas Hakum is all year long. L'man Chalukim Chayim all year long, not just Self-Made Tshuva. All year long, beginning now, a little bit of Cheshbon Nefesh before we go to sleep. B'nai Shalom, what I did, and Bush, if I don't remember what I did, forgive me. You know what that tefillah is? We have in the base of Mikdash, Hashem Talui. A guy doesn't know, he went into some restaurant, the restaurant didn't have a hechsher, there were 2 plates of meat, and one plate was glatt kosher turkey, another place was the davar acher, and he didn't know, he ate from one of the plates, he doesn't know which. So he goes to ask the Rebbe, he goes, that corn in the base of Mikdash, Kohen says, Habibi, you got to buy a nice fat shefale, Hashem Talui, that we don't know what you did, so this will be a kapor for you in case you ate from the Easter. But if he knows Vadai that he ate from the Easter, the Hashem Talui doesn't cover him. It's now on the insurance policy is null and void. Now he has to give Hashem Vadai. Has to do an Hashem Vadai. So when we do Cheshbon Nefesh, if we don't remember everything, so B'nai Shalom, if I don't remember everything, and if you remind me, I'll do Tshuva for it, I'll do Cheshbon Nefesh for it, I'll do Tshuva for it. But in the meanwhile, let my speaking to you, let my Cheshbon Nefesh before I go to sleep, this should be like a Asham Talui. That if I did do something wrong, take it care of. Neshama Parim Sfasenu. The same way a Asham Talui works in the base of Mikdash, it works before we put our head on the pillow at night. It's a thing, and we come in, person is signed and sealed. That's tshuva. It's good tshuva. But then we finds out, he remembers what he did, then we say tshuva for it. If you do a couple of minutes of Cheshbon Nefesh a night, it'll open up your life in Ruchnius. You'll hear the Shofar, you'll see Hashem in everything you do, and you walk around with a clean neshama, sweet smelling. The Malachim, you have Siyata Deshmaya, because you smell great. The Malachim, they're fine, they want to be by you. They'll be happy to do shlichus, to come and help you with whatever you're doing. Hashem should help, and as soon as we get closer to Hashem, we should be day to day, not big echazachan. We'll take on ourselves a little bit of Cheshbon Nefesh, and Hashem should sign and seal the ganze Chavura and all the Bar Par Kol Klal Yisrael Shana Tovah Musuke Kol Mishlos Lichum LaTova Ashir Seruchdias VeGashmias VeChefes Hashem B'Yodcha Yislach. Amen.